Very good evening. Welcome to the school by the sea, St. Thomas's College hosting St. Peter's College here in the 2019 curtain race of the Singer Schools League. We are back once again for exciting action of rugby after the club rugby season is just finishing on the other side. But here we are live from the St. Thomas's College grounds for what's going to be a fantastic school season that everybody is expecting, with strong teams and coming out on the park for 2019 as well. Joining me on the commentary box is Shanaka. Good evening, Shanaka. Lovely day here in Mount Lavinia.
It is a wonderful day. I don't know whether there are any other days in Mount Lavinia, Dinuk, but St. Thomas's versus St. Peter is going to be an absolute cracker of a clash. Both teams used to these by the sea conditions, as it were, and that's something that's going to come into play with the humidity kicking in later, maybe the wind becoming a factor later as well. But although it is a home game for St. Thomas's, I don't think they will be considered too much of a home team because they haven't trained at this ground very often, Dinuk, and that's going to come into play as well, I think, in this encounter, because they will be as alien to these conditions as St. Peter's are at the moment. And given the way that this turf plays a part on the pitch, as well as the wind coming in from over the coconut trees, that's going to be a real issue for both these teams settling in. And St. Thomas's certainly don't have the home advantage, because this ground is pretty much a cricket ground and everyone's preparing for the Royal Thomaian in a week's time.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting how the St. Peter's College boys will turn up. In the meantime, how St. Thomas's will adjust as well for these seasons. Shanak, have you followed the St. Thomas's team, how they look like this season?
Well, there's been an improvement from last season, Dinuk, purely in the sense that there's an experience of that one season behind them. They haven't lost a heck of a lot of players. They've obviously lost their captain, CJ Delisle, which is a big blow. But Senanayaka has filled that gap pretty well. He's a very different player from CJ, and he's someone who is very quiet, but lets his example do the talking. So he's managed to bring this team with him. There's a couple of youngsters who played perhaps a year before they might have otherwise played in what would be a good, strong rugby setup. But I think that experience also will be good for them coming into this season. So I don't think this team is the finished article yet. I think they may be on their way there, and perhaps next season is the team. St. Thomas's is a team that you're going to consider among the top. But in terms of development, I think they're probably in the second of a 3-year phase.
It's always been like that, isn't it, for St. Thomas? It always has a cycle of 3 to 4 years. Is the weather today? 28 Celsius degrees, partly cloudy it says, but doesn't look like. A lot of humidity, a 75% humidity, and a wind factor, as Shanaka said before, at 18 kilometers per hour, coming from the sea across the ground towards the pavilion as well. So the kickers will be tested. But we saw the second 15 game, Shanaka, both kickers for St. Peter's and St. Thomas's didn't miss much. But the territorial kicking is where they struggled a lot in terms of kicking at this venue.
It's a very wide ground, isn't it, Dinuk? So that's part of the difficulty with the racecourse as well, and that's one good thing. Perhaps St. Thomas's have been practicing at racecourse quite a bit, where the touchlines are not immediately visible. So the touchlines were only painted last evening, and that's why they probably don't look as clear as the kickers would want to have it. So sometimes you don't get your bearing, especially with the flags. The flags are kind of lost in the picket fences, the flags are lost in the crowd, and as a result of that, sometimes the players can't get their bearings. The kickers need to have a target, and that's probably what led them awry in the second 15 game, and we might see a bit more of that in the first 15 game as well.
Going into the season, Shanaka, St. Peter's is also always a vulnerable starting team, especially if they come against a team like Isipatana. They always struggle. St. Thomas is coming back, but St. Peter's is a very experienced team coming from last year. How do you think they'll fare this season?
Well, they have a victory behind them, don't they, Dinuk? They have that big knockout trophy win from last year, so that'll give them a heck of a lot of confidence. They know they're one of, if not the best team from last year. I mean, Royal obviously won the league, so they're the best team, but in terms of St. Joseph's and St. Peter's, these are the two guys that were gunning for second place. And St. Peter's came through and won a game they had no business winning in that cup final. So that's going to be a real boost for them. They'll come into this game very confident. They have a few X-factor players in their side as well, which St. Thomas's don't really boast of, and that's something that will really be in their favor. So I don't see how they can't start this match not being favorites, and the fact that we're looking at the warm-ups, and the warm-ups look a lot cleaner, a lot tidier here on the St. Peter's end than they do at the St. Thomas's end. And that just gives you a little bit of an understanding of how these players have grown, how they have developed into the game. And St. Peter's look a far more mature rugby side than the Thomians do on the other end.
Crowd building up, St. Peter's coming in as favourites. St. Thomas's still coming through their cycles to be on that top into the school's rugby season. We'll go into the short commercial break on thepapare.com. When we come back, it'll be more talk of how this school season will pan out leading into the kickoff here at Mount Lavinia. St. Thomas's taking on St. Peter's. Stay tuned.
To be a man is to sweat for every last inch of it. The harder you push yourself, the louder your body will protest. From sweat to grease, grease to dandruff. Fight back with Clear Men, 2 times the fighting power of ordinary shampoos. Beat grease, beat dandruff. Unbeatable performance for the unbeatable man. Power through the odds. Clear, zero dandruff, nothing to hide.
ශ්‍රී ලාංකික සැමගේ තේරීම no limit.
Melbourne යාපෝෂ මේක රසයකට change වෙන්න.
Drift in search of happiness. Fashion inspired by emotion. Glitz, the fashion destination. ශ්‍රී ලාංකික සැමගේ තේරීම no limit.
කිසි ගැම්මක් නෑ පදම පරක්කු ඇයි
සුමීරි පානේ පදමට ගහලා දවස පුරා ගතට දැනෙන මිහිරක් පුබුදා
හොඳම මැලිබන්තේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා මැලිබන්තේ එක්ක අපේ දවස රස වුණා
පදම වරුනේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා
මැලිබන්තේ පදමට කහට.
When she's special, she's not just a girlfriend, she is your sweetheart. When you feel it, you don't just call it sunshine, you call it warmth. When you reveal your deepest emotions, it's not just art, it's freedom. And when its essence is premium cocoa butter, it's not just chocolate, it's Ravello. Chocolate so special, you call it Ravello.
දැන් යහපෝෂා දන්නේ ඉරිඟු සහල් මුං සෝයා විතරක් නෙවෙයි කිරිත් එකතු කරලා. ඒ නිසා මා චේන්ජ් වුණා.
ලංකාවේ ළමයින්ගේ අලුත්ම සොයා ගැනීම. මේක රසයක. Melbourne යාපෝෂ රසයකට change වෙන්න.
Stumble upon a surprise. Fashion inspired by emotion. Glitz, the fashion destination.
කිසි ගැම්මක් නෑ පදම පරක්කු ඇයි
සුමීරි පානේ පදමට ගහලා දවස පුරා ගතට දැනෙන මිහිරක් පුබුදා
හොඳම මැලිබන්තේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා මැලිබන්තේ එක්ක අපේ දවස රස වුණා
පදම වරුනේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා
මැලිබන්තේ පදමට කහට.
Okay, she's ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Impressive CV. But why do you want to work here?
Is your unlimited package limiting you? Be really unlimited with the largest network. Talk unlimited with more than 13 million Sri Lankans with Dialog. Dialog Blaster Unlimited. A range of daily, weekly and monthly plans. Dial #678# to convert your package or get a new connection. It's always been my dream to be a part of a blue chip company.
Welcome back. It's the season opener here in Mount Lavinia. St. Thomas's College taking on St. Peter's College, hosting the first match of the season in 2009. Both teams are heavily involved in the warm-ups, using the entire ground. Not very often you see this in school sightings, that teams get to use the entire pitch for warm-ups. It's very good scheduling, I would say, by the host team. We go into last year's highlights, how the league panned out. It was Royal Kingswood which started last year, Shanaka, and Kingswood has improved, and they are a threatening team this year, isn't it?
Certainly a very threatening team. They got the first points on the board, but that was pretty much all they could manage before Royal came back and hammered them with that juggernaut that continued on to the end of the season, of course. Royal unbeaten, and they will be looking to try and make it a three-peat, Dinuk, and that hasn't been done for a very, very long time. So it will be a really interesting effort on their part. They'll be missing the big shoes of Janindu Dilshan. Very, very important player for them last year.
Zaira has been staying up in the top three for some time now. Not consistent in terms of performance how they would like to, but they've still stayed up on the top league for about 3 years.
I think Zahira have a problem in terms of player numbers, Dinuk. I think that's been the biggest issue for them. As soon as they came out, they had a very good season, and I think Shamli Nawaz did a fantastic job, which St. Thomas's will be hoping he can do with them as well. But these are the guys who are maybe the dark horses, Isipatana, and they might really pull a surprise. With Vaipa Gunaratna is good with teams like this. He's good with teams that are committed. He's good with teams that are disciplined. And if he can work his magic, then Isipatana might be something that we don't really consider too much, that might end up being very good.
Yeah, exactly. And Isipatana, knowing of Viper's skills and Isipatana's boys' heart of how they play, if both those two combine together, it's going to be a nightmare for other teams to stop. St. Joseph's College have lost a lot of players from last season, but they are trying to come up as well in the rankings with coach Nilufer Ibrahim.
They certainly are, and they will need to consolidate with all those losses. They started off brilliantly, and St. Thomas's will be hoping that their first match of the season doesn't end up like last year's match did, because St. Joseph's walked all over them. But they've lost a few guys like Keshan Kavinda and guys who really did the finishing for them. But Tarindu Dialvis is still around, and he's the skipper, and I think he will be one player to be watched this season.
Exactly. We spoke of both these teams, Isipatana and Kingswood College. Some of these teams have to travel up first up early in the season to Kandy, so that's going to be tough as well for Colombo teams to go up there. But in the meantime, it's the heat here in Colombo has changed so bad that the teams from Kandy also will struggle. St. Anthony is coming down to Isipatana next on Saturday. It's going to be a fantastic game as well.
Yes, the heat will be a big problem for these Kandy teams. And when I say big problem, Dinuk, I think you may have noticed, being from Kandy yourself, you must have noticed what the disparity has become. So it's going to be a little less easy than it used to be for visiting teams.
Trinity, on the other hand, again improving, have the luxury of having the squad, half of the squad from last season going into this season. They lost the Bradby last year. They have not won the Bradby in 4 years now, so that's going to be something that they'll be eyeing for this season, Trinity College, and they'll have their work cut out as well to compete in the A division this time.
Well, I think they had a few problems off the field, Diruk, didn't they, with their captain, etc. And now hopefully those have been settled. They've got an all-black great coming down to help them as well, Rodney Soyalo. So hopefully that will be something that might put them in the right stead. But this team is a team that I'm hopeful for this year. The Double Blues against Royal College, they started off really well last season, but couldn't finish the season in the same way, because I think they also suffer from a lack of player numbers, and that's something that Wesley will be hoping to prevent this season, to hope that they've kind of improved on the depth of their play, and I think Wesley will be a team to watch.
Yeah, certainly Paul Toya has been working with them, with Dulanjana Vijay Singh, with that team, so he will want to have some improvement in that team from the 7th place standing that they finished. This was the clash of the champions last year. I'm going to put you on the spot early. Who will be the champions clash this year round?
I'd be surprised if it wasn't these two teams again. because that's what they've been looking like. Royal, of course, like we said, they've lost Janidul Dilshan, but they've still got a real powerhouse centre in Tuleib Hassan. And going into the 75th year of the Bradby Shield encounter as well, I think Royal will definitely be one of those teams that wants to stay up at the top there. And St. Peter's, is difficult to look beyond them because they've got a couple of very, very good players still in this side. So with that experience of the win, like we talked about earlier, I think it's going to be very good.
St. Thomas played 10, won 6 and lost 4, just more than 50% last season, and finished on top in the plate segment. They would love to be in the cup segment this time.
They would certainly do that, Dinuk, and I think they might have a chance of staying up this time. But if you look at St. Thomas's last year, they were probably actually the 7th best team, but some teams who played in the cup were probably not as good as St. Thomas's, but still managed to get into the cup because of the format. But we'll talk about that a little later.
St. Peter's College played 9, won 7, lost 2, and finished 3 in the cup segment of the league. And they're once again a team to look forward to this season.
Couple of heartbreaking losses, weren't there, for St. Peter's against St. Joseph's. That match was almost within their grasp, and then one against Royal as well. But when you talked about the format last year, Dinuk, I don't think it looks favourable on St. Thomas's because they went down to the plate and they won the plate fairly easily in the end. But I don't think they were as bad a team to go down into the plate. I thought they were better than that. And this is the fixture from last year as well, where it ended up in a 25-all draw. This from 2017, actually the last time these two teams met for the Archibald Pereira Trophy. That was Navin Henakan Kanamge going over.
Yeah, Diat Fernando captaining St. Peter's that season. Both teams had a very good side that season with St. Peter's College and St. Thomas College finishing at 25 all at Bambalapitiya, and they'll be comfortable coming here to take the Archibald Trophy back again. It's still with St. Thomas's, I believe. So St. Peter's will want to take that back to add to their trophy cabinet this season.
What a wonderful finish that was, that last try that we saw as well. That was a half-time score, and they came back, and it really was a game for the ages. Plenty of good tries scored, but defenses were not the best. I think coaches would probably have been a little concerned about how many tries were set in there. And Dion Dias stepping up and putting St. Thomas's level on the stroke of full time. And that was how the game ended, 25 points all, nothing in it. And I think St. Thomas's, if you offered this to them at the start of the game and said, look mate, it's going to finish 25 all, would you take it? I think they would.
Yeah, +1 with what Shamli Nawaz will be hoping for in his first season, first game at his home ground. St. Thomas's College taking on St. Peter's College. The crowd nice and slowly building up. As we always know that during the school season, it picks up coming off from the club season.
It certainly does, Dinuk. I think this season's Dialogue Rugby League club season has been outstanding. I think we've seen a few upsets. Well, not a few, we've seen quite a few upsets and very many close games as well. And I think that might see a resurgence in club rugby as we go forward. And it'll be good to see if Sri Lanka Rugby can find a consensus with foreign players and with the clubs as well. If they can agree on what the format is going to be, that would be great. And maybe if they could shorten the season a little so that the players are not fatiguing in the final 2 weekends of the season. But the school season, I think you have captive audiences, don't you? You've got the boys, you've got the boys' parents, you've got the old boys. So you really can't go wrong with that formula, which is why it's so popular. As we see the juniors all clapping the Thomian team out there for the first time. And Senanayaka becomes the third brother to captain from his family. So his elder brother Hashika, and then we had Harit who captained as well. And the Sokka brothers, as they were called. And it's a very big honor, obviously, for one family to have 3 captains in it.
Yeah, exactly. That comes down to the generations of Senanayakas, the third one in this decade to captain St. Thomas's in this millennium century, I would say. And it's going to be, as always, it'll be heart-pounding at this moment. It's the first game of the season. You're standing. Nice to see St. Peter's having their big numbers back on their shirts. Would be a bit easy for us to call this season around. So job well done for the St. Peter's committee. for getting that one right early on in this season.
Yes, I would have preferred that next year if they can give it to us on a white backing as well, because now we've got to see it through the stripes, and this goes for all the schools, of course. But yes, as you said, hearts will be pounding, the nervousness will set in. You've worked for about 6 months now to get to this point, and it's going to be a lot of pressure on these boys, and the people who can deal with the pressure the best, the guys who can make sure that they don't allow the pressure to overwhelm them, that's where things are going to make a big difference in this team. Whoever starts well is probably going to end up winning this game.
Both teams introduced to the chief guest and the two principals. St. Thomas in that traditional blue and black, and St. Peter's in white, gold and blue.
This is a trophy game, Dinuk, which if some of our neutral observers might be wondering why there's a chief guest introduction, this is because it is a trophy game and it's played for the Archibald Papare Trophy, a wonderful coach, remembered fondly by both schools, a master and a coach, Archibald Papare.
Interesting stat, Shanaka. 60 matches have been played between these two teams, and 33 have been won by St. Thomas's, and St. Peter's, I believe, was in the past 10 to 20 years that would have come back strong, winning 23 and 4 drawn.
We'll get back to that after the school songs,
Both teams are ready to kick off this season, as we have the team cars from St. Thomas College. Adisha Handun Patirana, De Silva Pereira, Fernando Senanaka, the skipper at 5, Siambala Pitia at 6-7. We have Jayasekaran at number 8, Revanka Bevadana, and Vijay Singh and Jan D'Souza at 10 will be the very crucial today. And then moving on to Rajapaksa, Damapriya, Karunaratna, Ishak and Chaturanga to complete the 15. Pereira, Bilal Hilmi, the skipper, Julian Charles, an experienced campaigner at prop, and then we have Lankesh Pereira, Meghdayas, Sanket Fernando, Mohammad Nizran at number 8, very crucial player, Janindu Fernando and Ashel Rana Singh at 9 and 10, Madhushankar, Sandesh Dimel, Sunir Fernando, Ravin Fernando, key player for St. Peter's College, Shenal Silva and Tenuka Nanakara at fullback. Looks solid, that starting lineup for St. Peter's College, Shanaka.
Very solid indeed, and you spoke about the experience. Guys like Julian Charles and Bilal Hilmi will be bringing, and of course Mohammad Nizran. He's going to be a player for the future, I think. Dinuk, I saw him last year and I was very impressed with what I saw. He got injured, unfortunately, and wasn't able to maybe contribute to the fullest of his abilities. But this man will have quite a tough test as he starts off his season. Ishanka Bekun, assisted by Priya Suranga and Indika Pradeep. So this is going to be a tough match for sure, because I think the forwards will battle it out up front, and it's going to be a very, very interesting game. The battle for the Archibald Pereira Trophy between St. Thomas's and St. Peter's, live from Mount Lavinia on ThePapare.com, sharing the passion with you for 10 years and more.
Thank you for everyone who's joined us. We have two Tomian boys, brothers, who are missing this game, watching in from Malaysia, Rishen and Shashan. Hello to you, and who have been fans of Papare.com and played for St. Thomas's also, cricket and rugby of course. And we are ready for kickoff this season. 2019 kicks off. St. Thomas's will play from right to left on your screen in their traditional blue and black. And you can see St. Peter's College in blue, white and gold from left to right on your screen. Ishanka Bekon will start off proceedings.
Jan D'Souza to start the game off with a new look third row for St. Thomas's. Abe Vardhana packing down with Jayasekara and Siambala Pitia. Bit of a change. Lasenta De Silva moves to the front row. And early call from Dulan Fernando. He's colorsman for St. Thomas's in the basketball. You'll see him exactly why. So Tomian line out might be something to be reckoned with as Kavin Jayasekara takes the first contact. St. Peter's flying up in defense. D'Souza spins it, and it's gone backwards, says the referee, and St. Thomas's will retain the ball, but St. Peter's now have snaffled it. So initial nerves for the Tomian backline, and St. Peter's now have an opportunity. Smashing this up through the front row, and now they have an opportunity to work it, but the Tomians come up quickly in defense. Kavin Jayasekara with the tackle. Here's some space now for St. Peter's. Nice draw and pass, and here's the space. Lovely little inbound pass, and Sandesh Dimel will score the first try for St. Peter's. An outstanding try, beautifully created by Tenuka Nanakara. And wonderful play from St. Peter's early on, and this man will be so happy with that, Dinuk, because Sandesh Dimel was injured last year, missed the entire season, and is coming back in what will be his final season at St. Peter's, and he would have been delighted to start off with that try.
Yeah, fantastic move. If you see that move, how it started, turnover ball, couple of faces to their left on the short side initially to move the defense of St. Thomas's, and then one big bust by the number 8 in the middle, and from there on it was lovely hands, and playing with the touchline so nicely was Tenuka Nanakara, and inside line, beautifully run inside line there by Sandesh Dimel, who has a comeback this season. And what a start for St. Peter's College. First minute, first try on the board.
really good composure from St. Peter's. They didn't panic when they saw the space, and there was good straightening of the line as well from the two before the last pass. Dinuk, I thought that was what created the move. The centre straightened that line and then passed on to Nanayakkara, who ran down the touchline and gave a beautiful inside ball, perfectly timed as well. So St. Thomas's will need to hold on to the ball if they're not going to allow this dangerous St. Peter's team to run away with this one. Decent kick and a little bit more distance on that one. And Dimel is the man who made the clearance. A long ball out and risky stuff from St. Thomas's. Rajapaksa makes the first run. St. Peter's committed to the counter-ruck. Here's De Souza and it's picked off. And that was slow ball, and it was the prop Pereira who got his hands on it, and if it was a back, that might have stuck and it would have been under the posts again. So St. Thomas's need to be careful because this Peter's line speed is excellent, Dinuk. You've already seen them flying up.
Yeah, exactly, and St. Thomas is also trying a few fancy passes, not going close or not using their forwards straight away. Of course, it was a counter-attack move from that kick, which will be kicked so much into the pitch this match for sure. But then from there on, not taking the tackle, giving it out wide.
Nice space on the open side for number 8 Abewardena if he fancies it. But it's a pick up and pass, and Jan De Souza changing directions. And here's a little bit of space, but good tackle by the Peterite defender. It was Ravin Fernando in the number 9 jersey, although he's playing on the wing. Here's De Souza. Again, the line speed really impressive by St. Peter's. Coming up very quickly was Bilal Hilmi, and that forces St. Thomas's to kick. And here's Tenuka Nanayakkara. Good chase from Ishak. Jayasekara with the tackle drives the player back. Tackle made that time again by Karuna Ratna. Lovely offload by Pereira. And here's the space again. Ravin Fernando jinxing and getting straight through. That was too easy for Ravin Fernando, the man who was at the center of controversy over the last couple of weeks. But all he'll be getting for that is a couple of pats on the back for sure.
He's a class player, isn't it? This guy, Ravin Fernando, has been playing for St. Peter's for about 3 years now and has been always fantastic off his feet. Nippy player, Ravin Fernando. He had plenty of support. Look at this once again. Look at the hands. And Ravin Fernando again flirting with the touchline. Sandesh Dimel made sure that he had covered that touchline for Ravin. And a lovely step to run around and score. So under pressure, St. Thomas's early on. And St. Peter's will be calmed down now, and they know that quality of this side is slowly coming through.
Chaturanga with a tackle that he will want to forget pretty quickly, if you can even call it a tackle, Dinuk. He's been wanting at the back, especially last year. He was a bit vulnerable under the high ball and certainly in the one-on-one defense. But again, in terms of depth, St. Thomas is not really having too many options. Tenuka Nanayakkara whacks this one through from just short of the tram line, so he looks like he's a confident player. He's got his knee strapped but doesn't seem to really be feeling the effects of that. Sloping along quite comfortably.
Yeah, and a very interesting kicking technique as well. A bit of side on, lifting the legs both times if it goes into. And those kind of kicking moves, if they fall into a rhythm, they kick all day.
Jan De Souza kicks off for the third time in just over 6 minutes. And that ball is untidy. And Seranayaka thought he had it, but got hammered from behind. Here's Ishak now, but again turned over. So St. Thomas's clearly don't want this ball. But lucky to get away that time with a knock forward.
not building up paces, St. Thomas's. They have a good big forward pack. But if they can hold on to the ball, third phase, fourth phase, then it'll test the Peters defense, put a couple of kicks to turn around the line speed.
Yes, the issue is that St. Peter's have got them really rattled here. And this is where St. Thomas's will need to grow up very fast in terms of experience. A very young side still. St. Peter's will be smelling blood.
Options for St. Thomas here. Exactly where they had the scrum initially, but didn't capitalize. Had a switch move. This time,
Abhivardhana again, that pass to his scrum half was not accurate. Veerasinghe having loads of trouble. Here's Dulan Fernando. He's tall but he's lanky and he got cut down very quickly there. Abhivardhana carrying strongly that time. Veerasinghe. And here's a little bit of space now for St. Thomas's, straight through the gap. And the pass was not a good one. Rajapaksa knocks it forward as Chaturanga tries to make amends for his previous missed tackle and probably should have kept going on the outside. Chose to cut back inside Dinuk and butchered what would have been a beautiful overlap.
Yeah, exactly, and he had two men coming on either side. Would have been just, if he had held on to that ball for just before going into that tackle, had he given out. This was a perfect break. Now look, he has one onto his left and one onto his right. And that's where he went into contact. And that was the difference between St. Peter's and St. Thomas's, where they lovely hands offloaded out to the free support runner coming in, whereas St. Thomas's player there going into contact.
Big scrum by the Thomians that time, putting a little bit of pressure on with a wheel as well, so not allowing Nizran to break. And again, Sandesh Dimel with a wonderful chase. And Chaturanga juggling that ball, not looking safe under the high ball at all. And here's St. Thomas's trying to run themselves out of trouble through Rajapaksa. And St. Thomas's get a relieving penalty. Hands on the floor, says the referee. So that might be Dimel's attempt at trying to snuffle that ball. Tough call. It was a one-man breakdown.
First penalty of the season. Ball stays in. Interesting curve there against the wind. It bounced off perfectly into touch.
Well, if at all St. Thomas's have an advantage, Dinuk, it will be in this area of the game, because Senanayaka is probably one of the best line-out jumpers in the country. And Dulan Fernando also an outstanding basketball player. So that's him at number 2. Jan D'Souza. Going straight into the contact was Dharmapriya. Here's a nice run by, nice straight run by Abhivardhana. Manages to get the offload away to Rajapaksa. Advantage over, says the referee, and Jan D'Souza now with an inside ball. Abhivardhana towards the line. They are 5 meters short now. D'Souza to Handun Patharana. That's a good pass. And Rajapaksa just can't get it away. And again, some brilliant play, but just a few 50-50 balls not going to hand for St. Thomas's, and Rajapaksa is inconsolable.
Yeah, very nicely done there by St. Thomas's. Off that line out, there was a pod set up on the far side. The forwards lining up there. That's where they broke through off that line out initially. And then coming back, it was so much space for them. Only to the ball that would have gone to hand. Look at this, a lovely inside ball there by Dulan. Going into contact. And then coming out wide. From here on, that's where the knock-on was made.
Well, there were men screaming out wide, weren't there, Dinuk? And 2 passes that should have been made, 2 passes that would certainly have resulted in tries. And St. Thomas's instead find themselves still to trouble the scorer. So that's experience for you. It's understanding as well, not to panic when you're in a scoring situation, to know what to do when you're in space. You've got one man to beat and support coming. It's hard. Rugby is a game that's a little harder than it looks, I think. A lot of people don't realize how you have to make decisions and how you have to pass the ball behind you, which is not an instinctive thing to do. And it's a lot more difficult than it looks.
Yeah, and also it's like you said, people think that you can smash into each other. But it's not that. Now it has become how you create space, how you move into space. Gone are the days that you run one-on-one. Now you try to run in between a couple of defenders and create space, overlaps.
Karunaratne looks like he's in a bit of strife from that tackle that he received. He'll claim it was a blow to the head that didn't allow him to pass that ball. But Shamli Nawaz has been around too long for that. He might go off for just to check whether he can continue. So the set piece is where St. Thomas's will be hoping that the game goes, because you saw in the earlier scrum as well, they had a little bit of a march on. Julian Charles going into the hooker's berth, making a little bit of a difference there and trying to get him more mobile. He's lost a bit of weight from last season as well, so looking far more fit.
Yeah, exactly. Looks a solid prop forward. In fact, he's playing at hooker this season, Julian Charles, in terms of scrummaging.
So St. Thomas's have been forced to make a substitution, and Karunaratne, the number 13, has gone off. And they bring on yet more inexperience into the team. So that's an early blow for Coach Nawaz. Number 24, Olugala, coming on.
Crouch. Bye. Steady. Steady, boys. Very good.
St. Thomas's will need a big scrum here. Try and put some pressure on. And the kick is in touch and bouncing on that turf, creating a lot of problems for Chaturanga. Chaturanga now coming back on the inside, looking to try and create some space. And now the ball is available, but St. Peter's line speed that time again brilliant and led by the prop forward again. And here's a little bit of space for the Thomians once again, but St. Peter's have scrambled well.
Go back.
Here's Abewardena, dangerous ball carrier. Brought down brilliantly by Pereira. Managed to get the ball back. And again, Shenuk Pereira juggling with that ball. And again, referee Abekun will have a word about that line speed. I think they might have been starting just in front of the line.
Hands on the ground. Release.
So referee Abekun being very clear, he's saying repeated infringements. You've got your hands on the ground when you're trying to play that ball, so don't do that again. So that's a general warning for the Pete Wright team. And St. Thomas's will be happy for the opportunity of a line out. De Souza will want to find kick touch on the full, and he does exactly that. Just about 7 or 8 meters short of the Pete Wright line.
This is where St. Thomas can put a lot of pressure on St. Peter's, knowing that they've already got a warning. Keep the ball in hand, let them commit another penalty, and then they could find them one-man shot.
And that's again inexperience for you, Dinuk.
What do you want? Line out, come.
You've got an attacking line out, and you had the line out go to number 2 earlier. You won it simply. And just with the second line out of the game, you go to number 6 when your hooker is not warmed up, when your jumpers are not really in the game, and you squandered another scoring chance. So St. Peter's have taken both chances they've got. St. Thomas's have butchered 3 already.
Yeah, exactly. I think the first 3 to 4 lineouts at least until your number 2 is confident enough to go 2 or 4. To go 6 early on with the win, especially here at Mount Lavinia. It's a bit too asking for the young hooker.
Steady boys.
Good scrum that time by St. Peter's. They held it well. And Dimmel's kick into the middle of the field. Could have been dangerous, but may still turn out well. Rajapaksa. Here's the new man. De Souza. Needs to maybe take that ball to the line a few times. Here's Adish Hadun Patirana. First time he's touched the ball, one of the more experienced players for the Thomians. Here's Jan De Souza, that time taking it to the line. Veerasinghe now needs to find a new fly half option at first receiver, and Abewardene is that option.
Hey, last foot.
St. Thomas's look like they're settling a little better. Here's Jayasekara looking for that inside ball, but Dulan Fernando is upended by Charles. Senanaika now, excess scrum half. Adish Adin Patrana, it's a good tackle from St. Peter's number 5, Lankesha Pereira, lined up the big prop and hammered him low and hard.
Again, St. Thomas is a bit isolated there. Jan De Souza, just a prop forward and the win 3/4 there on the outside. Whereas he had enough players onto his left, just stood on the wrong side of the ruck.
Very casual as well by both players. I thought Dinuk Hadun Patran really needs to up his intensity if he's going to make an impact this season. Physically gifted player, but really needs to settle in on his discipline. So this is a scrum that St. Thomas's desperately need to put pressure on. And if they are smart about it, they'd wheel this towards the touchline. And Shenuk Pereira, who's played at number 8 before. Lashendra Pereira also, who's played at number 8. Lashendra De Silva, rather, who's played at number 8, making the move up to the front.
Point. Set. Steady. Steady. Say, number 9.
That's a good wheel, but wheeled it the wrong way. And here's Ravin Fernando. It's a long ball out to Tenuka. And now the winger puts his ears back, but in the end, Chaturanga eventually makes a tackle.
Good cover defense. They held on, waited for Ravin to straighten up and then moved sideways, pushing in to touch the Ishak. Just look at the St. Thomas's defense here. A bit too late for the 7 to come out. But he always knew that ball was going into touch. He was pushing his other scrum off, pushing his other win 3/4. Coming back live, St. Thomas's once again looking for their fancy passes on the outside. If it comes right, it'll be fantastic to watch. If it doesn't.
Okay, play on.
Olugala doing well there. Lovely run from him to get his team out of trouble. Jayasekara stepping out of one tackle. Here's a good hands from St. Thomas's, and now Adish Hadun Patrana has a chance to put his ears back. And that pass was a lousy one again by Hadun Patrana. The big man against the small man really should have put his shoulder down and taken the tackle. So created out of real trouble there. And good hands by Abewardene and Shenuk Pereira there. And here's Hadun Patrana. Should really have put his shoulder in to the tackling player and just set up another ruck. Instead tried the fancy offload. St. Thomas is living dangerously. And the scoreboard is a reflection of that. Here's Olugala again. Tries the offload, but Rajapaksa is... ThePapare is not happy to go in and clear. Beautiful hit. What an outstanding tackle that was by... I'll tell you who it was in a moment. It was number 7. That was Senthika Fernando.
Now release now.
St. Peter's really ruling the defensive end of the pitch. Nice inside ball, but it's becoming predictable now. St. Peter's have been ready for it on the last 2 occasions it came. Dulan Fernando, dummies, goes into contact, but they've lost 2 meters. Here's a little bit of space now for Chaturanga again. Brought down on that hard turf. Beautiful gang tackle by Peters again. Their defense really has been outstanding so far. And again, De Souza with the unforced error. St. Thomas's have let themselves down, Dinuk, and they've done so with the aid of some excellent defense by St. Peter's.
Yeah, exactly. Line speed, the technique of the tackle is all fantastic. It's a well-drilled team, this St. Peter's team. One of the front runners, that was unforced error there by Jan De Souza. I was thinking for a moment he has good technique as a receiver, puts his hands up, look for the ball in between the hands. But that on that occasion just took his eyes away to see who his support runners were on the outside and dropped the ball. On the other hand, St. Thomas's, like you said, are targeting on the far side with 2-3 forwards, heavy forwards. But the problem is they're trying to pass off the tackle. Here is St. Peter's attacking time now.
Chaturanga doing well that time to call the mark. But we go back to that knock-on, Dinu, can you call it an unforced error? But it's actually not an unforced error. It's credit to the Peters defense because they're coming up and hammering them so early that the fly half is always thinking in his eye line he's got someone. And, ball is in touch, says the assistant referee. He stepped on the line, so referee right on the spot. The line's obviously not as clear as you'd want them to be on this turf.
Yeah, after he caught the ball, just slipped his way through to the touch line.
Mohammad Nizran on your screen there. Look for him this season. Think he will be a real find. And again, the accuracy of the passing from St. Thomas's is really leaving a lot to be desired. The skipper with his first real touch, and it's not a good one. Holding on to the ball, says the referee, and taken quickly by St. Peter's. They want to play this game at pace. Not 10, says the referee, who's had good control over this game for the last 20-odd minutes, Dinuk.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of policing the breakdown, very clear of what he wants. Scrums have been good. Of course, it's not as contested as it would be for him to get involved. Couple of resets, and now St. Peter's are so confident they're going into a touch rather than going for 3 points. He was kicking it well. Sandesh Dimel.
Well, why wouldn't you? 14-0 up, and a bunch of experienced forwards. You can bet your bottom dollar what's going to come here. Dinuk.
It's a rolling ball.
And that's where Dulan Fernando is going to be so important to St. Thomas's fortunes in stealing line-out ball. Holding on or not releasing in the tackle, says the referee. So Dulan got his team out of jail there.
Yeah, he's a very skillful basketball player, isn't it? Played the finals in the Papare Basketball Championship. Unfortunately, going down to Maristella on that occasion. But he will want to make his presence felt in the rugby field. You know how good basketball players are when they come as second row jumpers. The ball just sticks in their hand as if they are having a magnet and pulling the ball to their side. And Dulan will be one such player. Good example of him is Pradeep Basnaik, who played basketball and played for Sri Lanka. So confident in that line out.
Here's St. Thomas's just trying a little bit of that driving maul and working well, and St. Peter's coming through and clearly from the side. Repeated infringements here, and referee might just have a word. Yes, he is indeed going to have a word. Talking to number 4 for the second penalty in a row.
2 repeated. It's a dangerous shoulder charge.
The referee saying that was a dangerous shoulder charge, and you can see the Thomian player on the ground as well. So that's a big loss for St. Peter's. Mohammed Nizran, we've been talking about him, and not doing himself any favors there. So St. Thomas's will do well to capitalize on this situation. Talking about basketball players, Dinuk, you go back to your old school. Guys like Ayas Dean, Duminda De Silva. Then for St. Thomas's, you have the likes of Suren De Chiquera and Naren Pereira, who captained one of those famous unbeaten teams. And Dulan is the latest in a long line of very illustrious names there, and hopefully he'll be able to make a mark just like those players did.
Need to get this line out right, St. Thomas's. Their driving maul is where they can put a lot of pressure on St. Peter's. They have found that, but they're going out once again to their backs. Here's Soisa spreading this ball onto the outside, going into contact is Ishak.
Go back.
A little bit of space available if they look for the little chip over the top on the blind side.
No, yellow. Back.
Robin Fernando with the tackle that time for the Papare. And I'm surprised they didn't go for that rolling maul, especially with one player down. So the decision making for St. Thomas's has been a little questionable. Abewardena charging onto that ball. Senanayaka now gives it to his second row partner. And here's St. Thomas's on the blind side. Here's Olugala stepping back in field but knocking the ball on again. St. Thomas's just cannot seem to hold on to the ball. And again, that's a testament to this defense from St. Peter's. Dinuk, they're hitting and hitting hard.
Yeah, not much tackles missed so far in the first 25, isn't it?
Yellow number 10.
And if it was one, it would have been points for St. Thomas's. But they have been tackling throughout. Here's that once again. Going into contact is Ulugala and couldn't hold on to the ball.
Time off.
I have to say Pereira, especially as a prop forward, has been outstanding in his defense. Dinuk, really good line speed starting from behind the line as well. And some superb stuff from the big prop. Looks very mobile. He's big. Looks a good prospect if he continues his rugby.
And the entire team, it'll be interesting to see how the bench of St. Peter's is. That'll where the league will be decided if they are a team to be reckoned for. It's not about the starting 15 anymore. It's all the 23.
Okay, good.
Abewardena crashing through there, taking his team 6 or 7 meters over the gain line. But this is where St. Thomas's really starts slowing down. Their intensity of the second or third phase is not as good. They're not coming from as deep. And De Souza really needs to dictate where he stands in comparison to his scrum half and what the players do when they run off him. So he's been catching and passing for me a little too much. I think he's got to look at an option. He's got to look at actually taking it to the line himself a few times as well, just to keep that defense guessing.
Yeah, correct, because he's been predictable. You don't have to put a defender in front of him because you know he's going to catch and pass. But the other interesting thing is, I think it's a game plan coming from Coach Shamli Nawaz. They spread the two forwards into two on either side of the park. And that's where they're trying to play their rugby. And not much forwards in the center field.
Dilshan Madhusankar in the number 10 shirt for St. Peter's. And they've got to send someone back to the Thomians because they have to even out the scrums in under 20 rugby, junior rugby. 7 on 7. Big push, but St. Peter's hold it well. Here's Madhushankar. They're looking to run out of their own 22. Here's Robin Fernando with that good step, but just dragged down in a tackle.
No blue. Advantage.
And again, a silly penalty given away by the new man coming on. That was Daniel. Referee playing advantage, and maybe St. Peter's will be able to do something with it.
Advantage.
2 penalties now.
One penalty here, one penalty there.
So 2 penalties on the bounce being given away by the Thomians. And Sandesh Dimel will decide which one he wants to take. He wants to take the one closer to the touchline, sensibly.
Ball stays in the field of play. An opportunity here now for St. Thomas's. They don't want to kick, they want to run it back, as that's what they've been doing all day.
So that's the effect of the conditions that we talked about, as Shenuk Pereira goes off on a run. Needs some support now. Eventually gets it, and they go open side, and again Lashendra De Silva leaves that ball behind. And again, Dinuk, this is testament. I keep saying this and I sound like a broken record, but this is all about St. Peter's defense.
Yeah, you can see the St. Thomas ball carriers. They are looking up before they catch the ball. That's not how you should catch the ball. You catch the ball and then assess the defense. Look at this once again. He's looking up straight away. Who is coming in to tackle him? And that pass also didn't make it any good. Came hard and fast at him, just above the shoulder.
Just a few quick tweaks from Shamli Nawaz in the halftime huddle, just to play a little closer to the ruck, Dinuk. I think those problems will sort themselves out. But again, you talk about depth and you think, okay, yes, you don't have a bench. But also when you talk about depth, Dinuk, it's things like this where you don't practice under pressure because you don't have enough players. And you don't get to replicate these match conditions. Here's St. Peter's now getting into that third phase. Flying up that time was Ishak, looking for work off his wing. In fact, that was Siambala Pitia, the flanker. Good hands from St. Peter's now, making inroads, going towards the 22-meter line. Nice inside ball, the gap opening up. And the offload is not a good one. Nadi Shahadin Patrana will gratefully grab that offload, which could have resulted in a try if it went to hand. And De Souza, from under his sticks, can only thump this one long and hope for the best. Tenuka again has to deal with the conditions here at St. Thomas's and can't get that ball to hand. Olugala would have been under the post for all money. And again, we talked about the conditions, Dinuk. I told you about the turf before kickoff, and this is what the turf can do to players who are not used to playing on it.
A bit unlucky, very unlucky there, Ulugala.
Yeah.
He's been playing with so much passion in this game. De Souza, again not kicking off the base, going to Jan De Souza. And he puts that kick into the turf. He knows it'll just give that extra bounce of Nanak Kara. And then he tried to offload that. Ulugala just couldn't pick that up. It was too hard for him anyway. It's not that boy's fault for not picking that up.
Another defensive scrum for St. Thomas's. And again, ball being juggled about. But stepping out of that tackle nicely was Sunara Fernando.
Go back.
Abhivardhana gets smacked away by Janindu Fernando that time. But St. Peter's have gone backwards, and that might have been an offside. Might have just gotten away with it, St. Peter's. Inside that 22, still trying to run themselves out of trouble. And they have done well, St. Peter's, to recover. And again, Ravin Fernando needing to do some sidestepping, but that was a really good recovery from St. Peter's. They were brave and they didn't panic, and they managed to buy themselves about good 40 meters.
Yeah, that's experience.
I need clean gap.
After that initial bust of St. Peter's, that's 2 tries in that first 6 minutes, has been going both ways. But St. Peter's also not settling into a pattern, isn't it? They're trying to throw the ball here and there, hoping that their runners will create some miracle, whereas St. Thomas's have tried to play a structured game, but have knock-ons have created so much problems for them. Once again, he has an opportunity. Ulugala at the back, pushes off 1, takes 2 to bring him down.
Good hands from St. Thomas's there at close quarters, but Senanayaka couldn't make a clean break.
Now release now. No.
Revank Abewardhan looking for the offload, just couldn't free his arms. Here's Dulan Fernando. Steps back nicely into the field of play, presents the ball well. And if St. Thomas's can end the half with a score, things will change for them, but that's not going to happen if they keep dropping the ball. So, Janitha Fernando that time, in fact it was Bilal Hilmi coming up and reminding Adi Shahadun Patrano about that knock-on. This is what St. Peter's have been doing. They've really gotten under the skin of St. Thomas's, who just don't seem to be able to hold on to the pill.
Yeah, looks like the entire forward pack have dropped the ball at least once into the half so far.
As you were saying, Dinuk probably just a basketball player that hasn't dropped it.
Yeah, I think except Dulan, because he has so much skills.
St. Thomas's have recovered from those 2 initial body blows, but still have just themselves to blame for dropping as many balls as they've caught. This is probably the most amount of knock-ons I've seen in a long time, Dinuk. Ball that time, a little bit of an off break on the turf, and our makeshift statistician, Yusran Lantra, says it's close to 14 offloads. 14 knock-ons rather.
Yeah, if it's true, I think Shamli Nawaz in this half-time break, which has been just blown by the referee, will have a lot to say about how they need to play in the second half. 14 points to 0. St. Thomas is still down against St. Peter's, but they managed to stay just about a 14 points adrift from where the game started, Shanaka.
Very quick change that I would make in this St. Thomas's pattern is to pick and go. And St. Peter's are very comfortable coming up and hammering the first receiver or the second receiver. But they really need to try and play this game a lot closer and a lot tighter and grind down that defense and then go wide to this particular pattern that they're playing. But St. Peter's very, very experienced. 14-0 up, they'll be comfortable. They know that even one score will not be too much of a problem for them because they can get down the other end. So against the wind now, let's see how things turn out.
Yeah, there you go, confirmation on your screen. 14 points to 0. St. Peter's College leading against St. Thomas's on the season opener in the 2009 Singers Coach League. This is how it all started in just about 40 minutes ago. And St. Peter's College started off brilliant hands the first try. It was Tenuka Nanayakara just put his foot on the accelerator. A good run by Sandesh Dimel coming in support to score the first try for St. Peter's College under the post. The kick was good too. And then the second one, a lovely offload. Center straightening up. And Ravin Fernando rather, to finish it off. A lovely inside step which foxed the defender and ran on the outside there. Plenty of experience, Ravin Fernando. And Tenukunana Kara didn't do much mistakes in terms of kicking, putting it through as well. So 14 points to nil at half time. St. Peter's College leading St. Thomas's College. It's everything for play for in the next 35, and we'll be back after the turnaround.
To be a man is to sweat for every last inch of it. The harder you push yourself, the louder your body will protest. From sweat to grease, grease to dandruff. Fight back with Clear Men, 2 times the fighting power of ordinary shampoos. Beat grease, beat dandruff. Unbeatable performance for the unbeatable man. Power through the odds. Clear, zero dandruff, nothing to hide.
කිසි ගැම්මක් නෑ පදම පරක්කු ඇයි
සුමීරි පානේ පදමට ගහලා දවස පුරා ගතට දැනෙන මිහිරක් පුබුදා
හොඳම මැලිබන්ටේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා මැලිබන්ටේ එක්ක අපේ දවස රස වුණා
පදම වරුනේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා
මැලිබන්ටේ පදමට ගහට
Echo the voices of fun. Fashion inspired by emotion. Glitz, the fashion destination. Sri Lankika Samake Terima, no limit.
දැන් යහ පෝෂා දන්නේ ඉරිඟු සහල් මුං සෝයා විතරක් නෙවෙයි කිරිත් එකතු කරලා. ඒ නිසා මා චේන්ජ් වුණා.
ලංකාවේ ළමයින්ගේ අලුත්ම සොයා ගැනීම. මේක රස එක. මැලිබන් යාපෝෂ රසයකට චේන්ජ් වෙන්න.
Sri Lankika Samake Terima, no limit.
When she's special, she's not just a girlfriend. She is your sweetheart. When you feel it, you don't just call it sunshine. You call it warmth. When you reveal your deepest emotions, it's not just art. It's freedom. And when its essence is premium cocoa butter, it's not just chocolate. It's Ravello. Chocolate so special, you call it Ravello.
Find yourself in love. Fashion inspired by emotion. Glitz, the fashion destination.
මැලිබන් යාපෝෂ මේක රස එක. රසයකට චේන්ජ් වෙන්න.
සුවිසලි ලක්ක වෙනුවෙන් සෑමංගලක් දක්වාම දහඩිය හෙලීම සැබෑ පිරිමියෙකුගේ ගතියක්. ඔබේ උත්සාහය තියුණු වෙන තරමට ඔබේ ශරීරයේ උත්සාහයට අභියෝග කරයි. මුලින් දහඩිය, ඉන්පසු ග්‍රීස්, අන්තිමට ඉස්හොරි. ක්ලියර්මෙන් සමගින් නැගිටින්න කාලයයි මේ. සාමාන්‍ය ෂැම්පූ වලට වඩා දෙගුණයක් ක්‍රියාකාරී ක්ලියර්මෙන් ඔබත් සමග ඉස්හොරි වලට එරෙහිව සටන් වදී. ඔබේ ජයග්‍රහණයට පෙරමං සදන අසමසම ඉලක්ක වෙත යන සැබෑ පිරිමින් වෙනුවෙන්ම සුවිශේෂී ක්ලියර්මෙන් ලොබාංගේගේ මෙන්ස් ෂැම්පූ.
Discover fashion inspired by emotion. Glitz, the fashion destination.
කිසි ගැම්මක් නෑ පදම පරක්කු ඇයි
සුමීරි පානේ පදමට ගහලා දවස පුරා ගතට දැනෙන මිහිරක් පුබුදා
හොඳම මැලිබන්ටේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා මැලිබන්ටේ එක්ක අපේ දවස රස වුණා
පදම වරුනේ
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා
මැලිබන්ටේ පදමට ගහට
The Joes and Petes are ready to renew their age-old rivalry for the 85th time. St. Joseph's College versus St. Peter's College, the 85th Battle of the Saints. On the 1st and 2nd of March at the Papare Oval Grounds. Live on Dialogue Television Channel number 77, MyTV, and ThePapare.com.
To be a man is to sweat for every last inch of it. The harder you push yourself, the louder your body will protest. From sweat to grease, grease to dandruff. Fight back with Clear Men, 2 times the fighting power of ordinary shampoos. Beat grease, beat dandruff. Unbeatable performance for the unbeatable man. Power through the odds. Clear, zero dandruff, nothing to hide.
කිසි ගැම්මක් නෑ. පදම පරක්කු ඇයි?
සුමීරි පානේ පදමට ගහලා දවස පුරා ගතට දැනෙන මිහිරක් පුබුදා.
හොඳම මැලිබන්තේ.
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා. මැලිබන්තේ එක්ක අපේ දවස රස වුණා.
පදම වරුනේ.
කහට පදම නියමෙට රස සමග මුසුණා.
මැලිබන්තේ පදමට කහට.
Echo the voices of fun. Fashion inspired by emotion. Glitz, the fashion destination. Sri Lankika Samake Terima, no limit.
Welcome back. It's the second half action of the first match of the 2019 Singer Schools League, coming to you live from St. Thomas's College, who's hosting this game against St. Peter's. Both teams have had their half-time huddle. Shamli Nawaz for St. Thomas's. And it'll be Banuka and Pika for St. Peter's College in the absence of Sanat Martis. It'll be interesting to see how both teams will change in the pattern of play, Shanaka.
Banuka Nanayakkara's brother, Tenuka Nanayakkara. His coach would have been happy with his performance of the first half, except, of course, that near interception, which was occasioned by this hard turf. But obviously, the more distraught coach would have been Shamli Nawaz, who on one side also must have been thinking that it's probably a blessing that he hasn't gone further behind on the scoreboard. That all these turnovers that they've been causing haven't resulted in more tries for this incisive St. Peter's outfit. Siambala Pitia. And here's D'Souza. Charged down. And again a knock forward. Here's St. Peter's. Can they get in for the first score of the half? Charles dragged to ground, inches from the try line. I'm sorry, that is a 5-meter line that we see just close by. It's a good tackle by Lashendra De Silva. St. Thomas's have managed to regroup from what looked like a really precarious knock forward. St. Peter's again now straight through Bilal Hilmi, the captain. Now long ball out to Ravin Fernando. You can bet your bottom dollar he's going to try some magic. Tenuka Nanayakara almost to the line. It's ever so close for St. Peter's now, just like they started the first half. And somehow St. Peter's managed to keep them out. St. Thomas's managed to keep them out and win a line out in the process. That was good defense.
Yeah, very good defense. Put their body on the line there, St. Thomas's College, and kept bumping off the St. Peter's attack. And eventually they had to go to that wide magic ball on the other side where Tenuka Nanayakara almost touched down.
Get back, number 10.
As
Ravin Fernando so dangerous with that ball close to the line. Beat 3 defenders for his first try. Madhushankar.
It's very interesting to see, Shanaka. There's 2 coaches outside. One is Dushant Liuke and Paul Tai of Royal and Wesley. They're here with their notebooks, and both will set up a plan to beat St. Peter's for sure.
Well, it won't take a lot of planning if you've got players who can execute.
Number 5.
No release, says the referee. And St. Thomas's win a penalty which will be almost like a try for them because they were so under the cosh from the first kickoff.
Yeah, that should give them a lot of confidence.
Ball on the railway track. It's happened countless times here over the history of rugby football being played at this big club ground. So St. Thomas's will need to settle, try and get some points on the board. They couldn't score before the half. Again, a lot of delays in this line out. Doesn't seem to be much communication going on.
Time off.
The referee is calling for the ball. Decent crowd gathered in here today. As we said, the school's rugby always popular.
Yeah, exactly. And on a Thursday afternoon, some would have stayed after school, but it's the working crowd that has gathered here. And looks like there's some support apart from the 2 schools in terms of to see how this game will progress here as well. 140th Battle of the Blues coming next week, live on Dialogue TV, My TV and ThePapare.com, 7th, 8th and 9th of March, live from SSC grounds.
Time on.
And one of those schools are playing here, St. Thomas. Of course, their cricket team will be taking on Royal. And one of the longest ever big matches that is played in the world.
Again, superb defense from Pereira. Just managed to time it right, and Jan de Souza at that time takes it forward. And let's see what the referee has to say here. He wants to have another chat with Bilal Hilmi. So he recognizes that Jan de Souza probably ducked into that one and has deemed that it's nothing more than a penalty. So good refereeing, and I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised by referee Abekun's performance today. But again, the wind being the undoing of the touch finders here. Sandesh Timel had the same problem in the first half, and now St. Peter's have an overlap. Players to burn, and it seems like it might be just the side of the field that they're playing on that creates the knock-ons.
Yeah, one side of the field you can't kick, and the other side of the field you can't catch the ball. And if that's going to happen throughout the next 30 minutes, St. Thomas's will be very happy. And if they can catch a few, it's going to be an interesting games on the card.
They're back to the full complement of players. Mohammad Nizran is back on the pitch. And here it is. There should really have been a 3-on-1 overlap here. Should have gone through the hands, I thought. And in fairness to the winger, he wasn't expecting that to come straight to him. Should probably have gone to the next man inside. St. Peter's maybe a little guilty of trying to get expansive too quickly. That must have been their game plan coming into this match.
Change coming up. Veera Singh taken out.
And Sakit Pereira comes on, who started last year, and so he'll have plenty of experience. And that ball not hooked, comes straight out the side. That's a good covering tackle, but referee has to go back. Yes, I think that was a foot in touch. But if you can go back to that scrum and see what happened there, there was an out hook certainly, and the new scrum half coming on. The communication between himself and the hooker was not a good one. So the players asking each other when they last won the Archibald Pereira Trophy.
Blue captain.
Well, Julian Charles has been caught punching on report from the touch judge, and I think there can be no arguments there. He seems to have understood his fate. And two big players for St. Peter's seeing the sin bin, and St. Thomas's have yet not been able to capitalize on that.
If he's caught punching, I'm surprised going away with a yellow card.
Well, I think the referee would have taken the seriousness of the offence as well, Dinuk. You don't want to reduce it into a non-contest. So lots of pressure on the referees to make the right call there.
That's a good kick in terms of what happened on the other side. Not going for distance, but to find touch. Yes, that scrum, Shanaka.
So you watch it here, it gets kicked forward and it comes out of the tunnel. So it really should have been pulled back. It didn't get hooked by either of the teams. So it should have come back, and it should not have even gone as far as it did there. Again, that was a call that needed to come from the assistant referee. Referee would never have seen that. Abe Wardana, who's been carrying hard today, doing a lot of work.
You lost the ball.
Again, St. Peter's defense flying up. And that time the referee says they started before the gun.
Opportunity for 3 points in front of the post.
Well, I'm not sure they have a recognized kicker in their lineup. Their best kicker, Iria Gama, is off playing cricket. And Jan de Souza will be the one who takes the kicks.
Tomorrow is the action of the 85th Battle of the Saints. Coming to you live from the Pisara Oval. Again, live on the Papare.com, Dialogue TV channel 77. And My TV is where you can catch all the action. It's the St. Joseph's versus Speed, known as the Joe Pete Clash from the Sara Oval, coming to you live. It's exciting action. Anand and Anand on Saturday and Sunday, and then Isipatana Thurston. The one-day encounter on Sunday. Thurston, of course, coming on top against Isipatana last weekend. So March Madness. And the school's rugby also has come closer to the March Madness. Has the second best kicker, like Shanaka said. Jan de Souza pulls off a thriller there. Puts off in between the posts to get St. Thomas's College off the mark for the season.
Points on the board is what they would have been thinking, but again with Julian Charles out, why don't you go for the line out, Dinuk? maybe try and exploit the absence of that one player with the driving maul. The ball just making it over the line, over the crossbar rather. And St. Peter's will want to play some territory. That's a good kick by Tenuka Nanayakkara. Well taken by Abewardhan looking into the sun. Shanuk Pereira rather. Big hit on him. Here's Serenayaka. He's been a little absent in terms of being the captain. Needs to lead by example. And D'Souza with a high up and under, and this will be a tester. Well taken that time on the turf, but the chase is not a good one. Lovely step back on the inside from Madhushankar.
Roll away, blue! Blue, no, no. It's okay. It's okay. No, no.
This is... well, St. Peter's really unlucky to give away that penalty. Ruck was formed, says the referee, and he came in from the side. So St. Peter's again guilty of a little bit of ill discipline. Dinuk, this is their game to win, and they really need to pile on the pressure.
Yeah, since that 6-minute mark where they scored 2 tries with lovely bit of rugby there, from there on, St. Peter's College have considered 2 yellow cards and plenty of penalties. As much as St. Thomas have knocked on the ball, these penalties have costed. But St. Thomas have not been able to capitalize on those, and that's the difference that's showing on the scoreboard. And St. Thomas is surprisingly very confident to run from their own half inside their 22 using their forwards. Not much of kicking happening.
Well, I really would, with guaranteed line-out ball through the likes of Fernando, and I really would like to see them play a little closer to the line. And with St. Peter's defense being so good, just to suck them in a little bit, just keep them guessing, play a little closer. I know Coach Nawaz has practiced these patterns, and it's lovely to watch when it comes off, but you've also got to play what's in front of you, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. If you play a closer game, a tighter game, hard forwards running very close to the rucks, they can gain a lot of meters against the St. Peter's team. And if you're going to play expansive rugby, that's where they're going to play into St. Peter's hands, because they love seeing that and they know how to defend that as well, because they are used to that kind of patterns. And if you play hard, especially with the set of forwards that St. Thomas have, quick, fast ball either side of the rucks, have the forwards running in, and that's where you can get a lot of momentum going in, and then use the backs maybe to put in some space.
Very easy to say for us here in the commentary box, Dinuk, but more difficult to execute. Good scrum by St. Peter's that time, and now they go on the shorter side towards the sea. And now a chance for them to get some steam up. St. Peter's haven't had a lot of possession. Trying to do what they can with it now. Nizran.
No.
Here's Madhushankar, and the ball again knocked forward. There were 2 knock-ons there, and Madhushankar leaves that one behind. So it really is the curse of the side, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the race course where only one side of the pitch sees so many tries. Here it's all about knock-ons. And St. Peter's was so good with their hands on the other side in the first half. And they've dropped 2 already.
Well, that being said, St. Thomas's have dropped 2 just on this half. So I don't think we can blame the ground conditions. The passing has been a little erratic. And also first game blues, I think not a lot of these teams have had many practice games with this kind of intensity. Sakit Pereira. Lovely break from Dharmapriya that time. Here's De Souza feeding his three-quarter line. Kavin Jayasekar running onto that ball nicely. Hadun Patirana that time making a few meters. And here's Senanayaka stepping through. This is probably the best passage of play we've seen St. Thomas's have yet. Controlling the ball. Again, flying up in defense. It's that man, Pereira, once again. That ball looked like it went forward. Referee was right on the spot though, and Sakit Pereira's service has really improved. Nice hands to Lashendra De Silva. De Silva still going. So difficult to bring to ground. Good clear out that time by Dunal. Really quickly back onto his feet was the ball carrier there, Abewardena. And here's Dunal stepping through, trying to use his long legs to get away from the tackler. De Souza. Dharmapre. Ball went backwards. So the referee will say play on. And what was a good passage of play ends up in a comedy of errors. So 2 knock-ons there. So the referee will go back for the original one. I think St. Peter's might have gotten a little lucky there.
Yeah, exactly. And St. Thomas's, like you said, had the best passage of play for the last 50 minutes. So many faces coming off. And the other good thing is the scrum half who had come in for St. Thomas's is quick. He he anticipates where the next ruck is formed and he runs there. And Jan De Souza organizing the forwards in front. But still, St. Peter's managed to hold on. Not much of gain line that the Thomians crossed on that occasion.
I think referee Abekun just missing that knock forward by the Pete Wright player, but that kind of mistakes are easily excused Dinuk in a game like this. He's had good control of both teams. Not tolerated any foul play. Pretty commanding in his presence.
Time on. Out. Hey. Yeah, hurry up.
Chaturanga made a good break in the first half, but that tackle he missed on Ravin Fernando will come back to haunt him.
Bind. 100. Set. Ready. 200. Say.
Scrum wheeling. That time St. Peter's rolling towards the tight head side, so the Thomians will have to be careful not to go in on the angle here and give away a penalty. 7-man scrum without Julian Charles. And as we say that, Charles comes back on.
So he's done with his 10 minutes. And also a switch in roles for Ravin Fernando, who will come back as a scrum half and will release Satmina Pereira.
It looks like he's off, not going back to the wing.
Bye.
Ravin Fernando is a player who can play from that 9 to 15 position at any place he wants. Free kick.
Early engagement, says the referee. Taken quickly. Abewardena bumps off Pereira. That's the first tackle he's missed today. Here's De Souza going for the line. Here's Senanayaka, in fact, the skipper. Can he drag his team over the line? They're desperate for some glimmer of hope in this match. Adish Adunpatirana cutting back on the angle. This is where the pick and go needs to be the weapon of choice for St. Thomas's.
Go back, last.
Good technique shown close to the line by the Thomians.
Go back, last move, on the line, back.
Referee very clear in his instructions saying go back on the line, and that's over. Lashendra De Silva. It would be unfair to call him a try-scoring machine because St. Thomas's didn't have a lot of tries last season, but when they did have one, it was usually at the hands of this man. He's so low to the ground, beautiful ball-carrying technique, and he's the one you want with the ball in their hands 5 meters from the line.
After putting a lot of pressure in the halfway mark, St. Thomas's College against St. Peter's in that 54 to 57th minute mark, they come back with a try and they hit back at St. Thomas's College. Just 4 points differentiating both teams. Jan de Souza puts the second one through. It's going to be the interesting last 10 minutes or so in this game. And it's going to be a shock for St. Peter's as well after that start. They never expected to come this close. And this could be a change of momentum for both teams if St. Thomas's can hold on. And that young scrum half who came in for St. Thomas's is doing a wonder of good. Just organizing his men. And look at this pass at the right time to give it out.
Dunal Fernando has been excellent at the restarts. Here's Shanuk Pereira.
Go back.
Serenayaka holds on to the ball and that time goes close to the ruck. Trying to suck that defensive line in. Jan de Souza almost getting blocked by his own player, but manages to find some good distance. And just misread by Bilal Hilmi there. And that's an important bit of work for St. Peter's. That time the ball getting sliced.
Backward.
And now it's Ishaq. Ishaq going under the post. Can Ishaq get there? Yes, he can. Sadak Ishaq with a runaway try. Referee will say we'll have a look at that one again. He'll have to have a word with his touch judge just to see whether it was scored or not. They haven't awarded the try yet. But now they do. And referee Abekun is satisfied that that volleyball that went on a little while earlier is perfectly okay. And the Thomian fans are suddenly in seventh heaven, although they really do need to get back behind the touchline, which they have. And De Souza now with the opportunity to tie the game up.
Already leading 15.
Sorry, I'd lost track to try and take the lead.
Extending the lead 17 points to 14 in point. In fact, 3 points ahead of St. Thomas's College. A total shift of momentum here. If they can hold on to this for the next 10 minutes, it's going to be a shocking result here at Mount Lavinia.
I think the referee's got that spot on. The ball didn't go forward of any of the players. And if you want someone with the ball in his hand, Sadak Ishaq is that man. Sandesh Dimel did well to get to him, but just ran out of grass. Shanuk Pereira now using those big forwards closer to the line. Lashendra, the try scorer, breaks the first tackle. Here's Serenayaka. Shanuk Pereira again. Yeah, it goes back into the 22, so De Souza can't kick it out on the full. Offside, says the referee. Donald Fernando very politely putting his hand up and asking the referee how much time is left on the clock. The referee says, I'm not telling you. That was a nice little interchange. You've got to love rugby for how respectfully big men speak to referees. Not a great kick at all. Jan De Souza slicing that one off the inside of his boot, and now here's the danger man, Sandesh Timel, who scored the first try. Good tackle made on him by Ishak. And that time again, holding on is the call. And Kavin Jayasekara went in and won his team a crucial penalty.
You can see the shift of momentum, the confidence. Indotomian showing now he needs to put this ball into touch. He does.
I don't think the school would mind too much if he loses all the balls today, as long as he finds touch. You watch this again. Dunal, just like he's in the classroom. Excuse me, sir. How much time? No, get away. That's great stuff. Great footage from our Papare camera team.
His teachers will be very happy for sure.
Well, his parents will be very happy. I'm sure they've raised a well-mannered boy. And whatever they gave him to eat when he was growing up, I think they should share the recipes. 6'5". Couple more kilos on him, Dinuk, as he advances in age, and I think Sri Lanka basketball and Sri Lanka rugby will have a good prospect on their hands, unless of course they lose him to studies, as happens a lot. Bilal Hilmi at the back of this line out for St. Peter's, desperate to try and grab some defensive advantage here. And that time they've changed their tactics a little bit. Kavin Jayasekara drags this one forward. Well defended by St. Peter's as well. Sakit Pereira. Jan De Souza on the cutback with Dharmapriya. And now they go short side again, opting to go with the forwards. Senanayaka now presents the ball nicely. Sakit Pereira calling Revanka Abewardena closer to the ruck, and sensibly done there as well.
Go back, go back.
And this is more like what we were talking about at the halftime break. Dunal somehow managing to get those gigantic limbs into the gap, and the scrum half had the ball in hand, so could they come through is the question. If you can see that again, we'll have a look at it. The scrum half is a protected species, Dinuk. We need to remember that. But was he within his rights?
I think he had the ball in his hand. Did he lift on time, and did the tackler make his tackle on time? We'll have to see on that replay.
Pereira really unlucky there, and well, I thought he did well there, Pereira. He came straight through. Because the scrum half had lifted the ball off the floor, and poor old Sakit Pereira got absolutely hammered. And Pereira has really been good today. The rook in defense.
Yeah, it's been another interesting choice, going for 3 points. They had the momentum in that rolling maul. Jan De Souza puts it through, takes the score to 20. It has to be a converted try now for St. Peter's College to seal this game. and they don't have much time on the clock.
The Thomian crowd suddenly starting to believe. De Souza knew as soon as he struck it. And now it's coming into the hands of Rajapaksa. It's inside the 22, so they can find some touch if they want to. Now they take it outside the 22. Hadun Pathirana. Good tackle on him by Julian Charles. In fact, it was Johnny Fernando with the tackle. Pereira again making another hit. And they've been dominant tackles that he's making. Another excellent tackle from St. Peter's. That time it was Charles. Jayasekara goes a little wider. Senanayaka waits for it. Again, huge hit. Lankesh Pereira that was. And De Souza was carried back.
No, inside the 20.
I think it might have been... Was that ruck inside the 22, Dinu?
Yes, it was inside the 22, just on the line. And that's what I was wondering, why St. Thomas's are creating pods unless if they want to kill time. If this was the intention to kick it out, they would have done it way before. And Jan De Souza was pointing at his forwards to take that ball forward.
Well, you can see he's not as confident in this ground, Diruk, with the ball in hand, with the pressure on to kick. Beautifully done by Senanayaka. This is where St. Thomas's defensive line-out is going to be so important. Kavin Jayasekara now taking on the man but losing the ball. Here's Sandesh Dimel trying to finish what he started. Dimel dragged to the ground but still going. And again, St. Peter's now. With their tails up, the Peters crowd have found their voice, but Nisran drops this one. Once again, this has been the tale of two halves, hasn't it? In terms of knock-ons, Dinuk, how many knock-ons have botched opportunities that coaches will be tearing their hair out?
Yeah, for sure. And something has to do with this ground in this near half here. If we take a percentage of knock-ons, about 98% to 2 on this side of the half.
I think I may even know what it is, Dinuk. We'll have a chat about that maybe after the match is over. It's something to do with the sight line, because you've got the audience at ground level and you've got a lot going on behind the posts, which is not something you get at a lot of the grounds that these players train in. It's very busy at eye line. That's perhaps something that might be affecting both sets of players.
I think one such ground is Nittavela, if I'm not mistaken, also has something similar but not as high as this.
Abhevardhana manages to hold on to the ball, give De Souza a little bit of time. Kavin Jayasekara, 20 points to 14. They really do need to get out of their 22, St. Thomas's, unless they know they've only got a minute to play. This is a dangerous part of the field to try and control the ball for as long as a minute and a half at schoolboy level. St. Peter's defense. St. Thomas's just trying to control even more. Hadun Pathirana dragged down by Madhusankar, the fly half. And that kick is straight into the hands of Tenuka Kara, one of the more dangerous players in this Peters lineup, but the tackle is good. Here's St. Peters now. Here they are in full voice. Jayasekara, or De Silva rather, with an important tackle.
Yellow.
And Lashendra De Silva may go to the bin. Yes, he does. For not rolling away there in that tackle. Maybe saved a try for his team though. It was a high tackle in fact. Lashendra will say, sir, I'm only 5'2", how could it have been high? But this may be where the game changes. And St. Peters opting for the scrum, a very interesting call. They've realized that St. Thomas's line out is just too much for them to handle with these two big boys, Dunal and Senanayaka. And this is do or die stuff. We're only in the first day of the season and the excitement is already mounting.
On the short side is Ravin Fernando lined up. Remember that famous try Navin Henakan Kanamge scored against Royal. It could be one against them here. If it's 8-9-14 move on the short side.
They've got to get their fullback across. St. Thomas's don't seem to be alive to the danger of Ravin Fernando and the space. Here he is, Fernando. Gwitster offload in. Navneet offload again. Ball went backwards, says the referee, and Abeyewardene has somehow snuffled it for his team.
Kick it out.
They desperately need to kick this ball out, St. Thomas's. Straight over the top. Referee Abekun says they didn't control that properly. The crowd on their feet. Taken quickly. I thought they should probably have gone for the line out. And here they go, inches from the line. Nisran. Can St. Thomas has survived this? Here's the barrage, here's Pereira. If he gets a try, it'll be just as much as he deserves. The ball is out. They've lost 2 meters, St. Peters. They're going on the blind side. They need to convert it to win. And here's a big bus, and that's a huge tackle by Kavin Jayasekara. Not releasing, says the referee. So St. Thomas is giving away too many penalties here. Wrong mark, says the referee. So this is really tense. St. Peter's supporters beside themselves. Here it is through Janidu Fernando that time who carried it forward. Nisran now. Now they're looking for the ball for the line. Madhusanka is desperately calling for it. And here's a scrum half. Another penalty coming for St. Peter, so it's not over yet, and it's a try. Not yet. And that's a try for St. Peters. Julian Charles it is who scored. He's made amends for his yellow card. And now the entire pressure will be on Tenukanane Akkara. To convert from a reasonable angle, you'd expect your kicker to get these. And the crowd hushes. What a game we've had, Dinuk.
What a season opener, Shanagar. We were predicting it is going to be close. Peters, of course, the favourites coming in. And boy, oh boy, haven't St. Thomas has given a fight.
Nadekara taking his time. And he misses it. Misses it by a fair distance. And that's the end of the game. St. Thomas's have pulled off a nail-biting victory here and snaffled the Archibald Pereira Trophy from the back pocket of St. Peter's College. What a wonderful, famous victory here at St. Thomas's College grounds. The blue and black will wave itself into the dead of the night today, and St. Peter's can only hang their heads. After they scored in the first few minutes, they weren't able to put tries on the board until the final minutes, and in the interim period things have really not worked out well for them. And the man of the match for us, for his defensive work rate, for his carrying, and for the amount of effort that he put in on the field, I think there were a lot of the St. Thomas's players that can put their hands up. And indeed, if we can also make mention of Pereira, the loose head prop for St. Peter's. Lashenda De Silva was outstanding with the try that he scored, but for us, the man of the match today, for the amount of work that he put in, the clear player of the match is Kavin Jayasekara in the number 7 jersey for St. Thomas's.
Yeah, what a game it was. 20 points to 19, just that 1 point separating both teams. And that last kick, just going off the post, and how much this can do for the rest of the season. How much confidence will this Pete Wright team will lose after that early start, and how much confidence will St. Thomas's gain after this win? It's going to be massive getting into this season, Shanaka.
It's going to be huge, but I'll tell you what, St. Peter's will recover from this. They knew that this was their game to win, and unfortunately I think for them, after they scored those 2 early tries, I think they thought this game was going to be handed to them on a platter. So they didn't work hard enough. They didn't do what they needed to do to win the game. They thought it was already in the bag with those 2 blowout tries. And St. Thomas's, with their reputation from last year, they wouldn't have really been nervous about this opposition. But suddenly, when the pressure was on in that second half, they couldn't respond. Sandesh Dimel cutting a despondent figure. He started off the try scoring. Would have wanted to try and finish it as well. He had a couple of opportunities. But this is where St. Peter's will go home, lick their wounds. And I think their next opposition will probably be the beneficiary of this loss.
As St. Thomas's celebrate their hard-fought win here in Mount Lavinia, it was a wonderful performance. Not in the first half, they came back in the second half much stronger. And the replacement, as we spoke through the game, is that the halfback who came in turned the game on his head. How quick was he off the ruck? And this was the second half highlights. And this was when St. Thomas's started scoring of Jan De Souza. The new points were important and started off with a 3, and then the try started flowing.
Well, flowing might be a little generous, Dinuk, but this was an important score. And you're absolutely right that the introduction of Sakit Pereira was what really injected that pace into the Thomian game. He kept calling the forwards closer into the ruck and managed to really get them literally and metaphorically over the line. Watch Lashenda De Silva here, very close to the sticks, and he used the post to his good advantage. You can see the Thomian crowd behind the line. De Souza did well to convert the 2 tries despite training at this ground only very recently, and that ball never went forward. Shenuk Pereira did his best to stop Ishak, but Sadak Ishak steaming down for the try, and he scores a few runaway tries. If you remember last year he scored 1 as well, and De Souza, that was a really important conversion in addition to the penalty he put over.
And Jan De Souza didn't miss 1 today, and that'll put a lot of pressure on the normal place kick. And this was the kick that went away. He took it a bit too lightly. Just a casual touch of the ball, looked up straight away. 20 points to 19. St. Thomas's take the trophy. This is how it was. Half time, 14 points to 0. 2 tries against 3 for St. Peter's College, and 2 conversions and 2 penalties for St. Thomas's, which mounted up to the second half 20 points they scored against only 5 of St. Peter's, ending up at 19. And Kavin Jayasekara, a clear man of the match for this week of St. Thomas's College.
He was a clear man of the match, Dinuk, but he wasn't the clear man of the match. There were plenty of performances that deserved that if we could give it to more than one player. But the upcoming fixtures from this week, tomorrow we have Royal College taking on the new boys, Maliyadeva. Isipatana taking on St. Anthony's in what will be a very interesting clash. Zahira take on Trinity in a match that Trinity will be expected to win, even though they travel down and are away for their first game. And Kingswood taking on Wesley for the Blase Trophy, the biggest trophy of the game early on in the season for these two teams.
Yeah, there was a trophy on offer today as well, and St. Thomas's retain or keep it here at Mount Lavinia as well. Here's the next week's fixtures. That's week 2, where St. Thomas's will take on Royal. That's a big game coming up next week. And then Trinity, Isipatana, Kingswood, St. Peter's, Science Zahira, Maliyadeva Wesley, and St. Anthony's versus St. Joseph's. That'll be a game to watch as well next week.
And to add the insult to injury for St. Peter's, St. Joseph's have won their fixture today. So that will be a little bit of the bragging rights issue between St. Peter's and St. Joseph's as well. So expect the social media messaging to be of a certain character over the next week or so. But what a close fought game it was, Dinuk, and St. Peter's have all the chance to snatch it at the end. But that under pressure conversion was just not good enough on the day. So that they will chalk down to experience. St. Thomas's with a famous win. And this is one of the big wins for them this week. And if they can build on this, then it will be an outstanding season for them. That's it from thepapare.com. From Diruk Bhaskar and myself and the rest of the Papare team, it's goodbye from Mount Lavinia.